So without further ado, we have two presenters today. Calista Rader with 21 Vision will be first up. Give her a round of applause.
Thank you. It's good to be back. I was here about a year ago, so it's great to see some familiar faces and some new ones as well. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got to be where I am right now. It was about 2 years ago. I was the director of technology for a medium-sized school district, and we were an innovative school, in my opinion. All of our kids had computers. They were in a one-to-one situation. They did not have textbooks, and we used project-based learning, which is real-world kind of problem-solving ways to approach our curriculum. One day I was in our high school and I was actually just had a meeting there, but I thought, while I'm here, I'm just going to walk around and see what's going on. And I went into a classroom and I saw just amazing stuff. Kids were solving problems. They were problems in their community. They were presenting to each other. It really looked like the floor of like a Google or an Apple or something like that. They were really working together, and it was beyond anything that I ever experienced whenever I was in school. Went into another classroom, saw the same thing. Went into another classroom, and at this point, I probably should have been very proud and very excited that this platform that we built that was very new in our area was taking place, but instead, I guess I was having an emotional day. I felt very sad because I thought, our kids have these opportunities, but what about all the kids that don't? And so that's what led me to create 21 Vision Education. In layman's terms, I'm a consultant, but I don't like that word because to me and to a lot of people, consultants signal big dollar signs where someone comes in and says, do this, 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 and then they get out. And that's not what I do. What I do is I go in and I partner with schools, and sometimes that's over a 2-year period where we're really coaching and building up the capacity within that building and that school district, so that way those kinds of things like I saw whenever I was in the school building that one day on my emotional day takes place regularly. These are the kinds of 21st century skills that we are teaching our kids to use. If you think about today, our kindergartners will be retiring in 2074. Think about all the changes that they're going to experience along their lifetime. And so teaching kids differently than how we experience school is important. Whenever I was in school, it was very worksheet driven, textbook, regurgitate information that you would consume. So there was this binge purge relationship. And now, you guys know as business professionals, the kinds of things that you're having your employees do, the kinds of tasks that you're carrying out are not those factory model kinds of ways of thinking anymore. And so preparing kids to solve those problems now, if they fail, it's not a huge failure, it's a learning opportunity to get back up and try again, is very important. This number represents the financial growth that my business has seen from 2014 to 2015. So everything has been going well. Whenever I was here last year, my big focus was to do what I had just said earlier about going into a school, working with a team of teachers or leaders and building up the capacity in those buildings. And I still do that, but the reason for the growth that I've seen is not because of that big focus with going in and building the capacity. It's been something totally different. And it was this right here. The Innovation Academy was an arm of my business that I wanted kind of running in the background, so that way I would constantly have some work. The Innovation Academy is a series of online courses that I provide using a learning management system, and I facilitate those. So I am working with teachers and still coaching them as I go along. It's not just that they're sitting down doing these tasks or watching videos, they're getting feedback as they go. So this is the thing that I thought, this will just kind of have something always running, and whenever I'm out working in the schools, this will be running in the background, I could do it anywhere. I did not expect for this to become the forerunner of my business. So where I thought that this was the arm, now it's really kind of the body. And these courses that you see here, these are all courses that I've created. They're my own intellectual property. And the way that I manage these and sell them basically to teachers is by using educational consortiums that will market, and then they process the payment. Grad credit is also available through these because of the educational consortiums that I use. So I have those going, and I would really like to scale them up. Right now, I am working to build some new trainings. I have them really very well established in the state of Kansas, but not so much in Missouri. And the reason for that is because of certification requirements for teachers. It is very different in every state. And so figuring that out has been something that has been a kind of a learning process for each state. I knew Missouri very well, but not the other states so much. I've also been seeking ways that I can grow this so that it is more of a program instead of courses that teachers are taking. Most of my teachers that take them will start with the beginning series, and then they will take them all the way through. So if a teacher starts with the first course and then takes all 6 of them, usually that's the same effect that I have had if I come in and try to build the capacity within a building over the course of 2 years. It is cheaper for the teacher to do it that way, and also for the district, but it is a much different approach. We did price these low enough that if a teacher has to take them and pay for them out of their own pocket, they can afford to. These are also not just for teachers. I teach courses on Curious.com that work for business professionals and families. Google Drive and all of these Google opportunities that we have now using their software has been a very, very highly requested item. And then the design thinking process is something that I also train individuals in and teachers in. This is really something that was created in the business world, and then it's just now starting to make its way into the educational world. So design thinking is definitely something that can work for everyone. And then at the same time, I have been hired by other companies to create training resources for them. So that is applicable to everyone whenever you have an onboarding process with HR or anything like that. So where my delivery has changed, my focus has not. I am still wanting to meet the needs of students in the classroom. And by impacting their teachers, I am impacting those students.
Okay, guys, we'll open it up for Q&A. I'd like to throw out the first one. I recognize the design thinking immediately, and I think that a lot of our entrepreneurs here in the room who are pursuing maybe even the lean business canvas for their startup would recognize the same thing. Tell me how you stumbled across that and then subsequently incorporated it in your classroom.
I was trained in design thinking by the D School at Stanford. And so going through that process has taught me how to then turn around and provide those, that strategy of ideation, reiteration, all of that within my own business. But then it's something that I use in the classrooms whenever we're looking at getting away from the way we've always done things and moving into something different. So my experience there is really from my direct training from Stanford, and then something that I'm able to bring right here to Missouri.
Hey, I was just wondering what you had available online out of all of this, and or it's all online, or what you have, and is it just kind of packaged software that you deliver to the teachers or whoever orders it? Just kind of how you delivering this?
It is online on my website. That's listed right over there. There is a tab that says Innovation Academy, and you can click on that, and that will show you all of the courses I have, plus a description, and then you can register for those. I use the Canvas learning management system for that because it is very user-friendly and because so many universities are using that now. And the way that an individual, a teacher, whoever it might be, goes about registering for that course is they just sign up for it, and then I contact them, let them know this is when we're going to start. We have a new course that begins the first day of every month. So tomorrow we start a new course. And the only thing that they ever have to download, they actually don't have to download anything. They might have to create a Google account if they don't already have one, but that's the only software that's really very specific. That's because the courses are for Google.
Hi. Have you found that education systems, teachers, that they're excited to reform their programs, or are most of them sort of stuck in their way?
Both. Yeah, someone else asked me that earlier, and it's both. Some people really just see that right off the bat, and some people think, well, gosh, this work has worked for me for 20 years. And the thing is, it probably did work for you the first 5, because that's the way our world was back then, but it's changed now.
So I think the transition to online was quite obvious, but you threw out a word that is kind of a buzzword around startups, which is scalability. So between the last time that you presented and the first time, it seems like you've worked on building the foundation for which you can ramp that up pretty quickly. Tell us why you chose to make that transition, and then what building the foundation is going to look like, and then what that growth curve hopefully will look like for you.
Well, because we're online, it is very scalable. I don't have to travel. I can spend time on multiple courses within one day, and it's also 100% profitable. So that is a big benefit, obviously, all 3 of those. I live in the middle of a cornfield, guys, so it doesn't matter the fact that I am logistically really isolated. I am still reaching people in other states. People could take the courses in other countries, and it wouldn't matter because it's not time, there's no time restraints. Everything that we do is online. There's no virtual face-to-face at all, but they receive feedback through discussion boards, and I come in and comment on those so that the teachers, and there are sometimes principals and other leaders that are taking the courses, they are being coached as they go along.
Is this something that each student has to have their own individual computer to do it, or does just the teacher need to be able to have access to the online learning so that they can teach the students that way?
Just the teacher.
So I had a question. You had talked about right now you have heavy usage in Kansas.
Yes.
And then Missouri's been a little trickier, you said. What? So where do you kind of see the next obvious? This is a state by state kind of those restrictions you were talking about, or some of those barriers.
Well, and I think that it was just kind of a fluke that we got to be very well known in Kansas. The certification requirements are very different in Kansas and Missouri. For example, I have a master's degree, so I have essentially a lifetime certificate to teach. In Kansas, it's not that way. They have to continually get certification points. And so it comes down to the fact that I need word of mouth to spread this in this regional area, but then also people need to want to be able to take the courses. If I come into your school, I could be talking to everyone right now, and you're here because you have to be here. In an online course, it's not like that. You take those because you want to take them.
If you're stuck in the middle of a cornfield, what is your business development strategy? How are you spreading the word?
I rely very much on word of mouth. Whenever there's any kind of grouping of teachers, whether it be a networking kind of opportunity nearby, I definitely make sure I go to those and try to network with them. We also use Twitter constantly. Teachers use ed chats on Twitter, and so that has been something that I've really been able to leverage. So social media, networking, but then also just talking with other educational consortiums in this area and letting them know that this is something that I could be kind of a gateway for them.
1MC loves Twitter. And I would encourage anybody to use the hashtag 1MCSGF to contribute here at any time. I want to know, how do you quantify your impact? How do you measure your results and then use that to market to future customers?
So how do we know that we are doing the right thing? Or what kind of results are we seeing from students and classrooms and that sort of thing? And that is a great question because it looks different everywhere. Of course, people want to use test results to show that what we're doing is effective. Okay, so that's okay. You're never going to be able to get away from that. But the thing is, if all of us took a test, that doesn't necessarily mean we know what's going on. That doesn't necessarily mean that we know how to use critical thinking and problem solve and so on, all right? So student engagement is one way that we can measure success. Whenever teachers, principals are looking at their classroom, they're seeing how many students are really engaged with what we're doing here. And then also the observational data that teachers tell me whenever they say that activity that we did in the course, I turned right around and used with my students. And I have never seen my students produce something that looked so well where they were thinking and really solving problems. So that is the biggest piece to me, just hearing those kinds of stories.
Hi. We're hearing more and more about these sorts of things happening in school districts across the state and across the country, of getting away from textbooks, going to tablets or laptops or whatever. So that's a big market for people like you, and I'm curious, how much competition do you have and how fierce is it?
If there's someone who is a face-to-face consultant, there is a lot of competition, but there is not very much of the online kind of competition. The majority of the people who are delivering some kind of online training are big major groups. If a big major group is facilitating some kind of training, typically it is a total consumption. So let's say there's videos or there's readings or something like that, and I'm sitting down in front of this and I'm never actually having to prove that I've either watched it or read it or whatever. So the difference with mine is I'm facilitating it. I'm giving feedback and I'm coaching people along and giving specific feedback based on what their next step is. So there really is no one else doing that other than me.
Hey, so I love what I'm hearing, the program itself, changing and innovating the way that education is happening, the focus on the teachers where you can have the most impact for, least effort. I was curious though, when you said there's nothing to download, are you doing live sessions with the teachers? And if so, you said it only takes part of your day to do, say 4 different sessions. How do you plan on scaling to a really large level if you are doing live sessions, or do you plan on moving toward downloadables?
So the way that I do it is I provide teachers with tasks. So for example, this last week, what the students in the course had to do was develop their moonshot idea. If they could do something 10 times better than what they're already doing, what is that going to be? And then they went through the design thinking process after that was listed out for them, and then turned that right around. That is listed in a module. So the module is written directions, and the supplements to those are video instructions. So it's me using YouTube so that way they can get more specific direction of, for example, how to create a Google account or how to set up your Google Calendar or so on, like that. So anytime that they need some kind of a face-to-face, it's actually through a YouTube video, and then the facilitation that I'm providing to them is usually through a discussion board, or it is through direct commenting on their documents that they're creating.
Hey, thanks for being here today. Tremendous. My wife was a high school business technology teacher for years. She taught essentially the design program that Google had for free forever, and they've discontinued that. But with everything that you teach with Google, does Google certify you to do all of that, or are there Google reps that go out and train people on that? What does that look like?
Okay, that's a great question. I am a Google for Education Certified Innovator. They just changed the name. We used to be called a Google Certified Teacher, and it rolled off the tongue a lot easier than the new name does. That was a training program that I applied to and was accepted in, and then I went into the Google training program like in New York City and was trained by them. So the knowledge that I gained from that program and then from that network of others that have gone through there is how I keep my knowledge up. Now, if I were to provide training for anyone, and I'm very heavy in Google, that does not make anyone else that I'm training a Google certified whatsoever. They do still have some Google certified programs, but there's very specific ways that Google wants them done. People usually hear the Google for Education Certified Innovator and think, okay, so if they were selected by Google, then I want to hear what they can tell me, so that way I can still get that information.
The face of education is changing. I think many of us have been able to experience that. I think GoCaps here in the building is a really good example of that with SPS. And there's a big shift towards self-guided learning. And I was wondering if you'd ever given any thought to taking these amazing, powerful, incredible ideas that you're taking to teachers and taking them directly to the students. You would, 10, 20x your market there. And the stuff you're talking about is the stuff that the teachers wish they could get across to their students. And I was wondering if you'd ever thought about taking your product directly to the end user.
I hadn't, actually. That's a great idea. I can see, some challenges there of working within a system, sometimes that schedule and so on. But that's a great idea. If I'm certified in Missouri and I have my background check and all of that, there's no reason why I couldn't.
Similar question on expanding your market, but also I think businesses could use this information, especially small businesses that have employees that don't have these skill sets. So have you thought about expanding and trying to offer it to some of those?
I would like to do that. Right now, my market is educators simply because that's where I am. But there's nothing stopping me from going into the business world.
And so that could look two different ways. One where you're working with the business leaders to develop training for the employees. But I think another one, I think it's in the best interest of a company maybe to offer training to customers. So have you ever thought about, for companies that are looking to outsource training that they're selling and that they're branding, to have them hire you to come in and then train their customers? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that is still something that would definitely go along with the lines that I'm setting forth with those online trainings.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. All right, Calista, I think we probably have a lot more questions and feedback for you. So for anybody who does, please feel free to talk with her after the session. But we close it down every presentation with the question, how can we as a community help you?
Word of mouth is still my number one way that I am getting customers. And so word of mouth would really be helpful. If any of you have any needs for training programs within your businesses, I'd love to talk with you to see how we could build modules together. But still, the word of mouth would be number one.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Calista. Fantastic information. If you want to contact her, you can find her information here. And as always, we at 1 Million Cups, we like to help make connections. And we have different classes that are coming up or different events. As you can see, Rihanna has quite a few coming up. I would say Accounting Basics for Small Business. That is October 8th. Also Rachel with the E-Factory. Quite a few different opportunities. We have the Go Big Pitch competition at the Expo Center on October 1st. Just quite a few different occasions and classes. Brad and Sean have the Reinvestor Group, Vacation Rentals, October 15th. Craig and Jeremy, they have the Originate Expansion opening. We also have Greg at SWI that has the National Manufacturer Day. And so please check these out and attend. And so we are so glad to have Jody Chaffin here, and he comes with Interactive Dynamics. He was one of the first to present with 1 Million Cups with App Pros, is that right?
Yep.
So we're pretty excited to hear what he has to say.
All right.
Thank you, Jody.
Well, thank you and good morning. Well, that's loud. As Jennifer said, I'm Jody Chaffin with Interactive Dynamics, and I'm going to start out with a video that was created by Beyond Creative here in the eFactory. They've done all of our marketing for branding Interactive Dynamics. So if you like it, it was Beyond Creative. If you don't like it, it was someone else that's nowhere near. So.
In the business world, as a leader, you're constantly being inundated with problems. Those problems could be something as trivial as getting expenses into the business, in a timely manner. It could be huge problems with supply chain, problems with customer acquisition. It could be problems that are keeping them from being profitable. And being able to work with them, be able to explain to them how technology can help them with those issues, and then being able to show them that a solution is really truly possible, and it doesn't take years to create something that can solve their problems today. We enable entrepreneurial-minded leaders to transform their ideas into innovative technology solutions. Sometimes they'll have a spark of an idea. Sometimes they'll have, a fully fleshed out idea. But always they come to us with, I've got this problem to solve, and I don't really know how to go about finishing that from idea to technology. It all began with a company called American Products. And American Products is a very entrepreneurial-minded manufacturing company. And in 2010, American Products purchased a company called Dust Shield, which was PC enclosures that allowed them to take computers into the manufacturing space and protects those from dust and pollutants that would destroy the equipment. Then in 2013, they bought a kiosk company that made interactive kiosks for all kinds of industries. Then in 2015, they purchased the App Pros. And the App Pros was a mobile app development company. A lot of what they were seeing was that the solutions that they were creating really needed that software component. So now Interactive Dynamics is really the evolution of all of that, where we now have the ability to create solutions that will allow you to protect equipment that you already have, or be able to sell you ruggedized equipment and have the ability to interact with customers like you've never done before on any platform, mobile, desktop, web, kiosk, whatever the case may be. What makes Interactive Dynamics different than most technology companies is that we have that full suite of capabilities. And we're kind of like one-stop shopping for technology, because what we have now is a powerful group that has both manufacturing capabilities and experience and a software technology mindset and experience. The capability of being able to take these complex problems, whether they be healthcare, logistics, anything that would increase productivity is really where our expertise shines. The ideal customer for us is someone who sees that we have a lot more to offer than a typical software firm or a typical manufacturing company, and sees that Interactive Dynamics really is the company that can solve all their problems in the technology space. Probably the biggest strength of Interactive Dynamics is our team. It's all about the people. The people that we have working for us are passionate about the things that we do. That's really what sets us apart, what motivates us and gets us up in the morning is, what new can I do today? What can I do that's never been done before? Or how can I help people do new things with existing technologies?
Okay. So again, our mission, we enable entrepreneurial-minded leaders to transform their ideas into innovative technology solutions. And that's very important, because you're talking about someone who has maybe an idea, who has spoke here at 1 Million Cups, the kind of people that are dreaming up ideas, or it could be that entrepreneurial-minded leader within a large corporate body that can't do things quickly because they have so much bureaucracy and red tape within the organization. So we're able to take and move quickly and take their ideas and turn those into reality. This is our team. The folks in red are our senior leadership team, and this has actually even grown since I created this slide. We've added a good portion of these people since the beginning of this year. We're growing very quickly. And we've got a very good team. Most of our development staff have come out of the medical software companies around here, and myself and David and Bob and John all have worked together in the past at medical software companies here in town. And so we've got a solid team that can handle both the technology, the manufacturing, the logistics of any of the projects that we take on. These are where we're located, our locations. American Products, if you're driving out towards St. Louis and you see those big metal buildings out on the north side with a big flag on the side of the gas tank, that's American Products, the big white building. In the yellow building here is A1 Manufacturing. That's another one of the American Products companies. And then Dust Shield is the third one there. And that's where we do all of our manufacturing of our kiosks and our computer enclosures. We're also located here in the E-Factory. The App Pros, when we started that business, there was no E-Factory. And so luckily, Alan Kunkel let us take up camp in JVIC for a year or so until the E-Factory was finished. And then we were one of the first ones to move in here when it opened. And now we have almost an entire hall down here. So we're taking the place over. This is really kind of the evolution of the companies. As you heard in the video, American Products bought Dust Shield back in 2010, and it was one of those kind of things, if you're old enough to remember the commercials, I like the company so much I bought it. That's exactly what happened with Dust Shield. American Products was using the products in the plant to protect their computers from all the dust and grease and nastiness that destroy computers, and they really liked the product, so they went and talked to the company, bought it, and the rest is history. In 2013, they bought Phoenix Kiosk, which is a very innovative kiosk company that, every time I say kiosk, first thing most people think about is going to the mall and buying a cell phone. That's not the kind of kiosk we're talking about. These are kiosks that you walk up to buy tickets, to check into an event or something like that. One of our biggest customers is Xerox, and Xerox has a jury management division. And they're taking us into all the federal courts. So if you go into a federal court over the next few years, you'll walk in and check in on one of our kiosks to go to jury duty. So you'd walk in, scan your summons, and then it'll print out your badge, you go perform your service, come in, you check out, it'll print your proof of service letter and pay you if they choose to do that. Some of our courts choose to pay directly out of the kiosk, some do not. And then the App Pros, my partner David Rudder and I started the App Pros in June of 2011, really realizing that mobile technology was taking over and we wanted to get out ahead of that curve. Now 2011, you say that's not ahead of the curve, you're 4 years behind, but believe me, in this area we were ahead of the curve, and it took a lot of time to educate and explain what we were doing, who we were, but that really took off well, and that's what I spoke about a year and a half ago, was the App Pros. And now Interactive Dynamics, in January, when we were bought out by American Products and merged these three companies together, we took a few months to figure out what we had, how we're going to put it all together, worked with Beyond Creative to create Interactive Dynamics, the brand. And so now we treat these other three companies really as brands of Interactive Dynamics. So if you think Procter & Gamble, they have all their different brands, Pampers and products and everything. It's the same concept of how we're treating our existing companies. So this is the first product that has come out of that joint technology capabilities. So Dust Shield is a plastic fabrication manufacturing. And Phoenix Kiosk obviously is kiosk, but they've always been steel kiosks in the past. And the App Pros, of course, being software. What we've done, and you'll be able to see it out here, we've got it set up outside the door, is we created a kiosk from plastic, which makes it a lot more easy to move around. It's dent resistant, it's scratch resistant, it's got a lot of, it's lighter weight, it's durable. And so we combined that with an interactive kiosk and with some software that we developed to be able to allow HR people to expand their services within the company. So if you think about, let's say, a manufacturing company of 200 or 300 people, majority of those people are not going to have a computer on their desk. So if they need something, they need to update their address, they need to look up a doctor, they want to print out their W-2s, they want to, request vacation, they have to go to the HR person. And most of those organizations have one HR person. And so they have a line out of their office at break time and lunchtime. Well, with our HR kiosk, you can wheel that into the break room and everybody can take care of it themselves. So for really a low cost, easy return on the investment, you can expand your HR team, make your employees happier, give them the access they need, and really take a load off of that one HR person. So like I say, we've got it set up here, you can see that, and we've got several people dispersed in the crowd. You might raise your hands if you're with Interactive Dynamics on the sales team. So most of them have their shirts on. If you have any questions, can't catch me, they can show you how it works and take a look at it. So this is how you get a hold of us. This is our main phone number, our Twitter, website, Facebook, LinkedIn, and so forth. And happy to answer any questions.
Okay, guys, we'll kick off Q&A. Just raise your hand if you have a question.
Jody, I have a question for you. As American Products was purchasing App Pros and these other entities, I've always been kind of intrigued with everything that's going on behind the scenes. As these acquisitions and these purchases take place, there are synergies that are gained. You gain efficiencies. That's why companies buy other companies.
Right.
How involved were you with that whole aspect of things? And then are there any eye-opening insights you can share with us as far as how that process goes?
Sure. You're talking about the whole getting bought out kind of thing.
Getting bought out.
Yeah. So obviously I was extremely involved with it. David and I, at the time, we were about 3 or 4 or 5 people, so we were really small. And being the owner of the company, I had to be involved very deeply. Bill Hammett is here. He's the CFO, COO of American Products. He and I arm wrestled vigorously for months to get to the point where we were willing to be bought out. My advice is, if you're going to do that, be serious about it and know what you're getting into, because it will eat up all of your mind time. Now, obviously, you're going to spend your time, you're going to work, you're going to serve your customers and everything, but you're constantly thinking and filtering everything through that decision. What happens if I sell out? What happens if I go from a company of 3 or 4 to a company of 22 overnight? What's good about that? What's bad about that? That kind of thing. And it can really, really eat up a lot of your energy. If you're not serious about it, don't even pretend that you want to, entertain those talks.
Why did you see that this was such a comfortable fit for your company?
Well, that's a great question. When we were approached about this, it wasn't something we had thought about. We weren't thinking selling out for years yet to come. But it did a lot for us. I think when I spoke here last year, I talked about how I wanted to be able to take people's ideas that came to us and give them more than just a development team. I wanted to be able to take their ideas and help them get it to market, help them be able to take those ideas, get investment for them, and grow that. And so I talked about it would be great if we had that kind of ability to filter ideas, test the ideas, make sure they work, design them, develop them, but then turn them into businesses. And I saw that we would have that capability with becoming part of a large organization. Financially, they are able to help us, do those kind of things, and it's already coming true. We're working on some products right now that we're going to be able to take to market, and then not just satisfy the need of the customer who came to us, be able to take this to the market and satisfy those needs throughout.
Thanks for the presentation today.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it seems like the technology company is buying the manufacturer, but in this case, the manufacturer bought the technology company.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Jody, if this would be your question or if it'd be the question of the COO. What was the reasoning behind that? Dust Shield I get, because that's still manufacturing, but then to get into the technology side, what was the opportunity that you guys saw there that made this thing make sense?
I just came to watch. For us, manufacturing needs a push, and we're believers in that you have to inject some creativity, and manufacturing can get, I'll just be candid, old and stale, and you come in and you do the same thing by nature. It's the same thing. It's repetitive motion. So acquisition is one way we try to inject that. when we got involved with the kiosks and the other technology companies, it became very clear there was some opportunity there that we could not pursue without having the broader technology knowledge. And Jody and his team were actually helping us out on some projects, and it was a real good fit. We love Jody and Dave as leaders, and really that's the hardest thing to find is leadership, and they're very innovative. They think a lot different than we do, and it's been a great mix for us, and it's really created throughout the whole organization. It's kind of infected the rest of the organization in terms of creativity and relaunching some of the products that we have in the past. So.
Yeah, I'm curious. You mentioned the opportunity for mobile development, and I might think that other technologies that are in my pocket might actually compete with the kiosk.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me why a kiosk would either be complementary to the device that's already in my pocket, or what is unique about the interactive kiosk that no other technology can take its place?
Well, that's, I spent a lot of time as we were going through and kind of thinking about, do we want to jump into this, that exact question? Because, I'm pushing the world toward mobile, and, here's this kiosk. Is that old, outdated technology? And absolutely not. I mean, if you think about the whole jury kiosk example that I gave you, or the HR kiosk, you can't print from your phone. You can't print from your phone. You can't print out a badge. You can't print out the letters. You can't do a lot of the things that you still need traditional technology for. But you also don't want just a computer laying out there where someone can monkey with it, mess with it, put it onto a porn site or something and walk away and think that's hilarious, those kind of things. So, there's a ton of opportunity in kiosk, and you're seeing a lot of industries moving that direction. And, with the HR kiosk, for an example, you have a lot of people in this world still who don't have computers at home, don't have a computer at their desk. They have no access to that information. And they might have a smartphone, they may not, but being able to get to it right there at work and get it is important. Now our vision, though, is be able to combine those. So you have your interactive kiosk, you walk up and you do whatever you want to do. So think Branson, you walk up and you see what shows are near you, you buy a ticket, that kind of thing, and then you scan a QR code and you walk away with all that information. So instead of having just that information on that kiosk, you've got it now in your hands, and you take it back to Michigan or wherever you came from, and you show your friends all the shows and cool things that you could do there. So it's really an evolution, I think, in a complementary services versus a replacement.
So you showed us a list there of about maybe 20 team members
Mm-hmm.
that you currently have. You said you're even adding to that right now.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the primary roles that those people fill? And then also kind of what triggers, what's the next person you're going to hire, and what triggers
Right.
that?
So I'll back up to that slide. So really in our team, David and I, started the App Pros, and what I saw desperately needed as we got bigger and didn't want to lose sight of, one of our biggest services was that R&D, that engineering, that mindset of being able to architect solutions. And so we didn't want to lose that, and so we carved that out and made that a team by itself, so that we always have that forward thinking and figuring out what's going on in the market. Bob Allen, he has 15 plus years designing enterprise commercial software in the medical world, and so he has proved invaluable to us as we brought him on. And all the guys under him are hardcore software engineers. The folks that are dotted, straight line under me, that's our logistics team and our operations team, our engineers, the people who design the kiosk, the people who support the kiosk, the people who make sure the kiosk gets from our facility to the customer's facility and set up. Everyone under Greg are the folks that actually build everything on the factory floor. And then under John is the sales team. So this is the team that we needed as we created Interactive Dynamics. It's going to grow significantly here and here, obviously, just from a labor standpoint. We're going to need more hands, more bodies to be able to produce the products that we're producing. And that will then spread, that the team itself will have to continue to expand.
And then, so HR, finance, all of those guys are kind of up under American Products.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the other benefit. The brain power at American Products, the entrepreneurial mindset that they have, the experience in business, that's what really attracted me, to American Products. But the nice thing about it is running all of this, I don't have to worry about the financial statements getting created and the taxes being paid and HR and all that kind of stuff because we have that bigger infrastructure.
Jody, tell me what's client acquisition like? You go through the whole process. Do you start with somebody who says, we're looking for technology and here's where we think a kiosk will fit? What's the average size of that organization and what genre of industry do you find?
So it really varies. If you're talking specifically kiosk, we have people who buy a kiosk. Maybe they're a chamber type or a community type organization that wants to be able to list all their members and be able to do wayfinding and that kind of thing. And then we've got mammoth companies like Xerox and others that have products that they take out and they need a kiosk to sell their tickets to and that kind of thing. So it really is a variety. On the software side, it's the same kind of thing. A lot of times we'll have a person walk in with an idea and they have no business background. They may not have any funding, but they've got a great idea. And that's where we can help those people so much more today than we could have in the past. And we have billion-dollar companies that are working with us, from the software standpoint as well. So,
I just have some thoughts here. I was trying to think of how this would help my businesses, and I can't really connect with a way that would happen. But could you tell us some of the businesses that you've really impacted? I was thinking, I can't really figure out exactly because some of this stuff went over my head. But then I thought, I just got back from this trip. I stood in the rental car line, and I noticed there's a kiosk, and I went to use the kiosk.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was still a guy that had to show us how to use the kiosk. And then I checked in on an airplane with a kiosk. Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as if I'm an entrepreneur and I want to have a business, or I want to use some of your services, tell us some really good success stories of who you really helped.
Okay. So, you have your corporate customers that I've kind of talked about, and it makes a ton of sense for them to be able to move that information to the hands of the consumer. There's that example of someone wanting to sell tickets. So we have one customer who has a carousel, a little horsey carousel in the malls. And they can use a kiosk to sell tickets to those people so they don't have to staff it all the time and everything else. And so it expands their business model. So they're able to grow much faster. On the software side, we're working with a huge healthcare company here in town that is getting ready to release a product. They've already started advertising it that is going to innovate, totally change how medical services are delivered. And we're doing all the software for that for them. So,
How will that change?
How will that change?
How will that change the use of the medical?
Okay, I can give you a few details. It's not out yet, but if you look in the back of the Business Journal last week, you can see what I'm talking about. And basically, the company is going to start offering remote visits to your physician. So you can do it all through the computer, and versus having to, sit in an office with a bunch of sick people and get even sicker and that kind of thing. So.
Good morning.
Hi.
This isn't really a kiosk idea, but I was wondering, since you seem to have medical software experience within your company, have you thought about possibly emergency rooms? The patient seems to spend a lot of time waiting to check in, and I thought maybe if they could use technology to give some of their information, that might speed things up and make them feel like something's happening when it's not really.
Yeah, we actually do have patient check-in capabilities, and United Healthcare is one of our big customers on the kiosk side, and they have I think there are over 50 kiosks right now, and they're looking to buy 50 more because they do that kind of thing. They do wayfinding to help people find where a certain department is within the hospital, and patient check-in, and theirs happen to be multilingual. So if you don't speak English and you can't understand what the person at the desk is telling you, they can direct you to the kiosk and you can enter your information and get the help you need. So.
Jody, I got a question for you. Kind of more on the acquisition side. It was really interesting yet not surprising to hear that leadership was the #1 trait that the app pros had, which made you guys sellable. Could you tell us a little bit about the infrastructure or the book of business that the app pros was building or had in place that made it even a possibility to be acquired. There's a lot of agencies, a lot of tech companies, a lot of people who are doing apps. What made the apps pros so special that they were able to be acquired by a larger organization?
I don't know,
And
maybe
this is,
Bill's
again, back for you. But.
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it. So that's a great question, because really we don't have, or did not have at the time, a bunch of patents, a bunch of IP. We didn't have a product. Our model wasn't to build the next great whatever and take it to business. We were a service-based company that were taking and helping entrepreneurs and local companies and regional companies be able to revolutionize how they were doing business. And I think a lot of it goes back to the leadership piece, and a lot of it goes back to the fact that there was that need for technology capability to plug into these other products. And so we were not a IP sell by any means. It was more of a good fit between our organizations. It just made a lot of sense. So, you want to add anything to that, Bill?
Jody, we're going to close up here to make sure that we're punctual with everybody's time. How can we as a community help you?
So, there's a couple things. One, obviously, check out our HR kiosk. Tell every poor HR person who's sitting there with a line out at her or his office, dealing with, how am I going to address all these people's questions and needs and then get all my work done. We can help them. We can make their lives better. So, Steve, who's sitting right behind you, he's kind of taking charge on getting the word out and selling those, but any of our folks can do that as well. The other thing is to just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, the entrepreneurial community has changed dramatically in the last year and a half, 2 years, and a lot of that is because of what Million Cups is doing, what the eFactory is doing, and those are our customers. There's a lot of folks in here that have come through here that we've talked with. There's a lot of people in the eFactory that we do business with, and our mission is to help entrepreneurial-minded leaders, and you're helping create those people. So just keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jody. Every week we have so many different presenters, and it's always really nice to see updates and to see what direction the business has actually gone. Callista's went in completely, sort of different position. But anyway, if any of you know someone who you feel would benefit from this platform, please let one of us know. We're all here to help you. I also want to thank you for coming every week. Many of you are here every week, and we appreciate that immensely. We have students, and I think it's always interesting for students to see how actual business is run. There's textbooks, and then there's actual experience, and the two are entirely different. I want to also thank Brick and Mortar Coffee. Every single week they bring our coffee for us. They're excellent. They do a great job. eFactory here is terrific. They give us the space, and we appreciate it too. Database Apple Specialists, they have the computers up here, so if you need to register or you want to present a business, they're right there. Also, Emerald Images, she's doing a great job, and Chrislin Video Productions. And then we want to thank all of you as well. So please have a wonderful Wednesday, and we'll see you next week.